Through King Solomon, the Bible preserves the greatest treasure of wisdom in history. His counsel has endured through the centuries because it is not merely theoretical teaching, but practical guidance for every area of life: decisions, finances, character, and spirituality. In a world filled with uncertainty, where every choice shapes our future, Solomon's words emerge as a clear map, perfectly balancing human discernment with divine depth. These principles are not relics of the past, but living foundations that can transform your mindset and the way you live. As you reflect on these 16 pieces of wisdom, you will be guided toward a life that is wiser, more prudent, and aligned with God's purposes. Perhaps one of these lessons is exactly what you needed to hear today. Let's begin. First, trust completely in God. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. Trusting completely in God is an invitation to let go of self-reliance and recognize the limits of our own understanding. Many times we try to control everything, search for quick answers, and depend only on what makes sense to us. Yet this verse reminds us that true security is not found in human logic, but in the faithfulness of God. Trusting with all your heart means placing your worries, decisions, and future into His hands, even when you cannot clearly see the outcome. It is a faith that goes beyond circumstances. When we stop leaning only on our own understanding, we allow God to guide us with perfect wisdom. He sees what we cannot see, knows the future, and works in the right time. Trusting God is not losing control. It is placing your life into the right hands with peace and hope. Second, guard your heart. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverbs 4:23. The heart represents our thoughts, emotions, and intentions. Solomon teaches that we must protect it above everything else, because everything we do flows from within. If the heart is filled with bitterness, envy, or fear, our choices and actions will also be affected. Guarding your heart means being careful about what you allow into your mind and spirit, words, influences, and emotions. It requires constant vigilance and wisdom. When we protect our inner life, we keep ourselves aligned with healthy and godly principles. This lesson reminds us that true transformation begins from the inside out. A person who guards their heart lives with greater balance, clarity, and purpose, avoiding paths that lead to pain and destruction. Third, avoid the path of the wicked. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Proverbs 4:14. The paths we choose determine the direction of our lives. Solomon warns us not to follow wrong paths, even when they seem attractive at first. Many times, destruction begins with small compromises, unhealthy influences, and seemingly harmless decisions. This lesson is about discernment. Learning to say no to what appears easy, but ultimately leads to ruin. Avoiding the path of the wicked does not mean isolating yourself from people, but protecting your character and your future. It means being wise about the company you keep, the environments you enter, and the attitudes you embrace. When we choose to walk in the right direction, we avoid consequences that could leave deep scars on our lives. Solomon reminds us that prevention is far better than correction. Choosing the right path today builds a safer and stronger tomorrow. Fourth, be wise with your words. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Proverbs 18:21. Words carry tremendous power. They can build up or tear down, heal or deeply wound. Solomon reminds us that speaking wisely is a serious responsibility because the consequences of our words can last for years. Being prudent with your speech does not mean remaining silent all the time, but knowing the right moment and the right way to speak. When words are used with wisdom, they create peace, understanding, encouragement, and growth. But careless speech often produces conflict, regret, and pain. This lesson calls us to develop self-control and greater awareness in the way we communicate. The way we speak reveals the condition of our hearts and directly shapes the results we experience in life. Wise words can open doors, restore relationships, and bring life to those around us. Fifth, work with dedication. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. Proverbs 10:4. Solomon highly values effort, discipline, and consistency. He teaches that negligence leads to lack, while diligence produces lasting results. This principle goes far beyond financial prosperity. It also applies to personal, spiritual, and emotional growth. Working diligently means giving your best, even when no one is watching. It is developing responsibility, commitment, and perseverance in everyday life. Many people desire success without sacrifice, but this lesson reminds us that true prosperity is built through faithful and consistent work. Daily discipline shapes character, strengthens integrity, and opens new doors over time. Those who remain faithful in small responsibilities are prepared for greater opportunities. Dedication may not always bring immediate results, but over time it creates stability, wisdom, and growth. Solomon teaches that a diligent life is not built on excuses, but on persistence, faithfulness, and a willing heart. If these lessons have been speaking to your heart so far, maybe this channel can continue walking with you through other moments like this. Now let's continue. Sixth, be humble. When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. Proverbs 11:2. Humility is a quiet yet powerful path. While pride pushes a person to seek recognition and place themselves above others, humility teaches us to depend on God and live with balance and wisdom. This verse reveals that pride always brings consequences because a proud heart loses the ability to listen, learn, and correct its direction. A humble person, however, walks carefully, recognizing there is always room to grow. Humility means having a teachable heart that accepts guidance, values wise counsel, and does not rely only on personal strength. It is remaining grounded even in moments of success and achievement. Humility protects us from unnecessary mistakes and leads to wiser decisions. When you choose this path, you grow with consistency, find grace before God, and build a life guided by wisdom rather than ego. True wisdom flourishes in hearts that are willing to learn and remain humble before God and others. Seventh, choose your friendships wisely. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Proverbs 13:20. The people you surround yourself with have a direct influence on the person you become. This verse reminds us that friendships are never neutral. They shape our thoughts, attitudes, and decisions. Walking with wise people leads to growth because you are encouraged, corrected, and inspired to pursue what is right. On the other hand, the company of foolish people can slowly lead you toward wrong choices and painful consequences. Often, this influence happens subtly through daily conversations, habits, and examples. That is why choosing your friendships wisely is both a spiritual and strategic decision. It is not about judging others, but about discerning the kind of environment you are allowing around your life. When you choose wise companions, you protect your journey, strengthen your character, and remain aligned with the purpose God has for you. The right relationships can encourage your faith, sharpen your wisdom, and guide you toward a stronger future. Eighth, have self-control. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. Proverbs 16:32. Mastering yourself is one of the greatest victories in life. Solomon teaches that true strength is not found in outward achievements, but in the ability to control your own emotions and reactions. Many wrong decisions are born from impulsive moments, especially during anger, pressure, or frustration. Having self-control means knowing when to pause, think carefully, and respond with wisdom, even when everything around you pushes toward an immediate reaction. This requires maturity, discipline, and dependence on God. A person who learns to rule their spirit avoids unnecessary conflicts, reckless words, and choices that lead to regret. Self-control also produces greater peace, stability, and emotional balance. This lesson reveals that conquering yourself is a daily victory that strengthens character and leads to a life that is wiser, calmer, and more aligned with the will of God. True power is not found in controlling others, but in learning to govern your own heart and spirit. Ninth, plan with wisdom. The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of everyone that is hasty only to want. Proverbs 21:5. Planning with wisdom reflects responsibility, discipline, and vision for the future. This verse teaches that haste often leads to impulsive decisions and disappointing results, while diligence, acting with care, consistency, and preparation, produces lasting fruit. Planning does not mean trying to control every detail of life, but setting priorities, evaluating decisions carefully, and moving forward with wisdom and strategy. Many failures could be avoided with more reflection and preparation. When you think before acting, you reduce unnecessary risks and increase the possibility of success. Wise planning also brings clarity, direction, and stability to everyday life. Those who live impulsively often become lost and frustrated, but those who organize their path walk with greater confidence and purpose. Solomon reminds us that God honors responsible attitudes and that thoughtful decisions help build a life that is more stable, productive, and aligned with good results over time. 10th, be generous. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. Proverbs 11:25. Generosity is a principle that transforms not only the person who receives, but also the one who gives. This verse reveals a powerful connection between sowing and reaping. Those who bless others will also experience care, provision, and refreshment in their own lives. Being generous goes far beyond giving money. It also includes offering your time, attention, encouragement, kindness, and compassion. Often, small acts of generosity can deeply impact someone's life. Generosity breaks the power of selfishness and changes the way we see the people around us. It also develops gratitude and creates a heart that is sensitive to the needs of others. People who learn to share live with greater peace, freedom, and trust in God. When you choose to live generously, your life becomes a channel of blessing, and what you pour into others often returns in the form of peace, purpose, care, and unexpected provision. 11th, avoid laziness. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, in Proverbs 6:6. This lesson calls us to observe the discipline and consistency of the ant, which works diligently even without supervision. Laziness is not simply a lack of motivation, it is a habit that delays progress, steals opportunities, and prevents growth. Many times, success is not built on extraordinary talent, but on small actions repeated faithfully over time. The ant teaches responsibility, preparation, and wisdom for the future. It works during the proper season and later enjoys the fruit of its labor. Avoiding laziness means choosing to act even when you do not feel motivated. It is developing discipline, commitment, and perseverance in the things that need to be done. A person who overcomes laziness builds a life that is more productive, balanced, and prepared to face challenges. Solomon reminds us that wisdom is found in taking action today, so we do not suffer tomorrow from the consequences of neglect and delay. 12th, be just. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Proverbs 21:3. Justice begins with the small choices we make every day. This verse teaches that God values righteous actions more than outward displays of religiosity. Being just means choosing truth and integrity even when it would be easier to take the wrong path. It means treating people fairly without deception, favoritism, or hidden motives. At times, justice requires courage and firmness, especially when facing pressure or difficult circumstances. Those who live this way develop a strong and trustworthy character. Justice also brings peace to the conscience and confidence in decision-making. When you choose to do what is right, your life becomes a reflection of God's will and wisdom. Over time, you build a path marked by integrity, respect, and trust before both people and God. Solomon reminds us that true righteousness is not merely spoken about, it is lived daily through honest choices and upright actions. 13th, be faithful. A faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. Proverbs 28:20. Faithfulness is built through consistent actions in everyday life. This verse teaches that God honors those who remain steadfast even when the results are not immediate. In a world driven by impatience and the desire for quick success, the Bible calls us to a different path, one marked by consistency, integrity, and perseverance. Being faithful means doing what is right repeatedly, even when no one notices or applauds. It means keeping your word, fulfilling responsibilities, and acting truthfully in every area of life. Those who chase shortcuts may appear to succeed for a moment, but eventually they face the consequences of unstable foundations. However, those who remain faithful build something strong and lasting over time. Faithfulness produces stability, trust, and blessings that go far beyond material gain. Solomon reminds us that true prosperity is not built through haste, but through a life of integrity and unwavering commitment. 14th, listen to counsel. Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. Proverbs 19:20. Listening to counsel means recognizing that there is always something new to learn. This verse teaches that wisdom is not gained only through personal experience, but also through the humility to listen and receive guidance. Many times, correction comes as a warning that protects us from making painful mistakes. A person who closes their heart to advice limits their own growth, but one who listens with humility gains greater understanding and perspective. Listening is more than simply hearing words. It involves reflecting carefully and applying what brings wisdom and growth. God often uses other people to bring clarity, direction, and correction into our lives. A teachable heart avoids unnecessary failures and matures with greater consistency over time. When you value wise counsel, you build a life guided by wisdom rather than by impulse, pride, or emotion alone. 15th, live with purpose. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Proverbs 16:3. Living with purpose means aligning your actions with the direction of God. This verse teaches that when we surrender our plans to the Lord, He brings order to our thoughts and gives us clarity to walk in the right direction. Many people live busy lives, but without true direction, simply reacting to circumstances instead of living intentionally. Purpose, however, brings meaning, focus, and stability. It is not only about what you do, but why you do it. When you place God at the center of your decisions, your choices become stronger, wiser, and more intentional. Purpose also sustains you during difficult seasons because you understand there is a greater reason guiding your steps. A life without purpose easily becomes confused and unstable, but a life committed to God gains direction and confidence. Solomon reminds us that when our works are entrusted to the Lord, our path becomes more established, steady, and guided by wisdom rather than by circumstances alone. 16th, the wise do not live in waste. There is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. Proverbs 21:20. Biblical wisdom teaches us that living wisely does not mean spending everything we have, but learning to manage responsibly what God has placed in our hands. The wise person keeps a reserve because they understand that life moves through different seasons. There are times of abundance, but there are also difficult days that require preparation, prudence, and responsibility. The foolish person, however, lives only to satisfy immediate desires. They waste resources, opportunities, and even blessings without considering future consequences. This kind of behavior affects not only financial life, but also emotional and spiritual stability. This verse also reminds us of the importance of maintaining a spiritual reserve. Those who seek God daily strengthen their hearts before difficult seasons arrive. Then, when struggles come, they have enough faith and spiritual strength to remain firm. True wisdom knows how to use responsibly what has been received. The wise person does not live trapped by excess or wastefulness, but learns to walk through life with discernment, balance, and maturity. Solomon's counsel goes far beyond the barrier of time. These are not merely ancient words, but living principles that continue transforming lives today. Each lesson shared here serves as a practical compass for the real challenges we face every day. In a world overflowing with information, yet lacking true direction, these teachings offer something deeply valuable, a safe, wise, and purposeful path forward. As we apply this wisdom to our daily lives, we begin to understand that true knowledge is not found only in theory, but in consistent practice. It is the small decisions shaped by discernment and wisdom that produce extraordinary results over time. Every step grounded in these principles builds a future that is stronger, more resilient, and more connected to the will of God. Life is made of constant decisions, and these lessons teach us how to choose wisely. They show us how to govern our emotions, guard our words, and protect the integrity of our hearts. Real transformation happens from the inside out when wisdom becomes a way of life rather than just information. If this message brought clarity to your life today, share in the comments which lesson impacted you the most. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this video. May God bless your journey, guide your steps, and strengthen your faith every day. See you in the next video.